Welcome, Peter, to Talk
Marty,
Badminton. How you doing?
Mad Marty, how you doing, mate?
I'm very well. Excited to have you on. It's been a long time coming. You've been watching many of the videos?
Yes, loving them, loving them. Obviously, had a couple of mentions from Dougie and from Aslan. Some
Yeah,
nice, funny stories there.
it was good.
Yeah, looking forward. Great venture, mate.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting
Great.
times, isn't it? Right, we'll get fired into the questions. Let's get started. Right, simples. Start with the simple questions. Full name.
Peter James Hardie.
Wow, is that right?
Wow.
James Hardie.
Yeah.
Where's that come from, Pete?
The milkman.
Must be
Um,
irrelevant. What is that?
no, the milkman. We had to involve him somehow. No, it was my mum's granddad's name.
Oh, that's
My
nice.
mum's dad's name.
Your mum's
Yeah,
dad's name. So your granddad's
yeah,
name, right?
yeah.
Aye. Okay, nice. And your age?
43, I think. Born 77
43.
September,
What does
43.
that mean? What year is that then? 20,
77.
1977, of course it
77,
is.
yeah.
I remember playing with you. I remember a long, long time ago, and your dad was obviously, I met you, I think, first of all in Berwick, although I didn't know you all those years ago. But when
No,
I was playing in the leagues and competitions and stuff, I'll never forget your dad coming down. And Claire, I remember more, your sister, which we'll come on to. And kind of, I remember, I mean, you were very small at that point. You must have been like 7 or something on a badminton court at that, but even before that, I reckon, even.
yeah.
I think,
I started playing badminton 7. I think that I used to hit shuttles in the back kitchen. My dad had like a stand-up net. And I used to serve and hit shuttles, but I never really played badminton. It was my sister and obviously my dad coached. And then I was more into my short tennis.
we,
And literally, I played short tennis, and I
sorry,
actually
what's
won
that? Pete, what is that? What
short
short
tennis.
tennis?
So it's tennis, small tennis racket with a soft ball on a badminton court.
Right.
And I played competitions, and they're young. And basically, I actually won a trip. I won a competition, and I won a trip down to Barry to play in a competition. And I was quite young at that. Obviously, all the family were to take down. It was all because of the short tennis.
Short tennis. So
Uh,
what? Sorry, it's tennis on a badminton court.
yes, with a small. If you take the badminton net down to the ground,
Yes.
basically that's your height of your net, and then it's a big soft tennis ball, big soft foam tennis ball with short rackets.
So
Basically, just mini rackets.
I mean, you're obviously tall now. Have you always been tall? You know they go on about when kids they go on about a percentile. Were you always predicted to be supersonic? What height are you?
No, I'm 6'5", and I never grew until I was tall, but I wasn't really tall. I started getting tall probably about 20, 21.
Really?
When I grew. It's when I started growing my height. It was really weird.
Like when you've got kids, you have a percentile, don't you? Like Becky's got a chart for her Sam that even from like 2 and 3, they kind of can predict what
Yeah.
height somebody's gonna be, and it'd be interesting that you. So they didn't know that. They didn't know you were gonna be. Yeah, how tall's your dad?
5'11" probably. Both my granddads were 6'3",
With that,
and I think that's where I got it from.
I see, nice. And your home area,
What now, or where I was born?
where you were born?
So the Duns in the Borders.
You were born there. That's where you
I know
lived
I was
in.
I was born in Edinburgh, Simpsons, but yeah,
And
I'm
obviously,
from
you lived
Duns.
in Duns at the time.
Yeah, lived in Duns all my life really until I met Laura in France. I met
Let's
Laura
go
in
back.
France for about
We'll come to that.
24.
We'll come to all that. And
Okay, mate.
brothers and sisters, I know the answer to this, but brothers and sisters, just Claire, is it?
I know I've got 5 brothers, mate. Yeah, just Claire. Yeah, she's 3 years older than me. She's born in 75 January.
1975 January. That's I remember Claire. I played with Claire quite a lot because well, I'm 50, so I think she was playing kind of. She was in the competition certainly in Berwick. I don't know if she played in the leagues in Berwick, did she?
Yeah,
Did she play for
yeah, she did.
Berwick?
She did. Yeah. But I only ever played a couple of times with her but she definitely played. Yeah, Berwick was
what I remember is you going down. I suppose you probably, I don't even know if you'd remember kind of going down at such a young age. Obviously, you started playing competitively and going to clubs and stuff like that. But even before that, with Claire playing, I'm sure you just went down and you were just on court before the games and all that kind of stuff whenever there was a spare. I remember seeing you down there, but you were very young. I remember that. You were very young back then. So, what age officially would you think when you first played? 7, did you say?
Yeah, it was 84, so 7. Yeah.
And where was that? Was that in the school, like the coaching that your dad provided? Was it?
Coaching at Berwickshire High in the sports hall. My dad, with other people, ran three clubs. So primary school, getting better, and then elite. So obviously, yeah, from 7-year-old, I was in there, obviously getting coached by my dad.
Yeah. And who else?
What was that, mate?
Who else?
Who else in terms of people?
Yeah, coach your dad, and who else? Well, I guess there was
lady
certain
called
people at certain ages. Well,
yeah, no, there was a lady called Margaret Squires, whose son also played. He was a year above me. I can't remember the other ones. There was a few, but basically my dad and Margaret Squires were the main coaches that I remember, Martin.
So was your dad? Did he give you the coaching in the first place? Before, was he your first coach, or was he more focused on more senior players, or was he your first coach? Would he?
Yeah, my dad was my coach, proper coach, probably until I probably went to a high profile coach when I was 16, probably 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So my dad's was always my coach. But basically, I was coached by Dougie Walker when I was playing with his son, and then when I was training up at
his son Eric?
Eric, yeah, really good player, really good player. And then my other coach was up in Airdrie, so I travelled up to Airdrie twice a week for coaching. Basically, that was getting back at 1 o'clock in the morning.
How did you get there?
My dad drove.
Wow.
My dad drove. It was. My dad wasn't the quickest driver, and we always stopped off. We always stopped off for chips on the way home. So it was either before the city bypass came in, we went through and we stopped at Kirstorfen. There was a chippy at Kirstorfen, or when that came in, we stopped at the chippy at Dalkeith. So yeah, so.
Twice a week from Duns is a big haul, right? That's a big drive, I should say.
Yeah, it was hot. It was
2.5 hours.
It was dragging, mate. Yeah, but it was worth it. It was worth it. That's where my partner at that time was. He lived in Straven. Really? So yeah, so for me to benefit, like what I always say is that people from the borders are obviously being blessed with good coaches in terms of my dad. There's some other ones and there's some still going. But the big thing for us was obviously the travelling.
Yeah, of course.
Why
Airdrie? What was it? Was that the training centre at the time, or was it just somewhere in between for you and your? Who was your partner back then in Straven? Who was it?
Just Straven. It was David Murray. Right. I moved to David Murray when I was under 15.
Sorry. Was he the coach? Was he the coach?
No, David Murray was my doubles partner. Yeah, the coach was Alistair Morgan, and he was one of the Scottish coaches, and obviously had a lot of good players on his books, and he obviously was trying to develop me, and yeah, very good coaching.
When you went to Airdrie, do you remember? When you went to Airdrie, do you remember? Was it just you and Dave, or was it a squad, or did you get everybody back there? Was it just the two of you getting one-on-one? What was that?
No, there was a few players. I'd probably talk about eight players if I remember. There was certainly 2 courts, and it was high intensity stuff. It was
physical. Physical.
Yeah, physical. Lots of lots of routines, lots of in, back, smash, drop, lots of movement, lots of back, front of the court, side to side. It was,
Is he still on the board? Is that Alistair Morgan still coaching then?
I honestly couldn't tell you, Martin.
What age was he? Do you remember when he was he an older guy then? Or?
Yeah, he was probably in his 60s.
Yeah, he must. Yeah.
He coached. Look, some people out there might know the name Pam Whiteford. He was coach of Pam Whiteford, I believe.
Right.
And she was my sister's age. And I think she was probably one of his first coaches. I'm not entirely sure, but he was very good and certainly worth it, mate.
Obviously, obviously Claire was a really good player as well, and was she getting the coaching as well? Was she getting that kind of level of coaching as well? Obviously, she's a bit older, but
yeah, she was in with the Cunninghams and Dalkeith. So David Cunningham, who's still going. I see him coaching in Trinent Leisure Centre now and again. He coached my sister along with, there was a girl called Emma Duckling, his two sons, I can't remember his two sons' names, Craig Lamb, he was there as well, so a lot of good players. So
yeah, fantastic. And how did you manage, do you remember how did you manage, obviously, with living in Duns and you're there and Claire's there and she's going to Dalkeith, and you're going to Airdrie, and was it one of them stop off and drop you off and then go to Claire off and then go to Airdrie, or do you remember?
No, Claire, the Dalkeith stuff was before I was Airdrie. Right. I was probably more just local at that time, or
Aye.
Look, I used to stay over at Douglas Walker's house when I was with Eric.
Wow.
So if there was competitions on a Saturday and we got to the final on a Sunday, it was easier for us to stay at Douglas Walker's house with Eric instead of us going all the way back to the border.
That's brilliant. And can I ask you a question about your coaching? Do you remember when you very first went to coaching? Do you remember the first thing that you learned?
I would probably say that whole, so basically you rack it up and your hand in front of your face.
Pointing.
And then pointing. And obviously moving back, so chassising back.
Yeah, scissor kick.
And then turning and going in. That's what I remember most.
That's why I think I remember the scissor kick the most. That's one of the things I remember the first time. That scissor kick, back, scissor kick, back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Repetition, man. It's got to be repetition.
I keep on saying, but I hate drills. I hate drills with a passion. Can't stand them. So boring. Anyway, so back to the questions. Why and where did you start playing? Did you love it, or was it everybody else was doing it? I thought I'll go and do it, or what?
Well, Duns, there was absolutely nothing. The choices were Badminton or stand in the streets. Yeah. And all my primary school mates went there.
Did they?
Because there was a lot of kids. It was really, really popular.
I know. How was it being in amongst all the kids and your dad being the coach, and what was that relationship like when you're a kid and all your pals are there and your dad's the coach? How was that?
I always looked forward to the drive home to get a bollocking.
Did you?
Yeah, I remember the tellings off. For mucking about and stuff like that. Yeah. And unfortunately, that has trended onto me doing the same with my sons. Unfortunately, but.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you started playing when you were 7.
Yes. And
you did it because everybody else, it was one of the only things to do, right?
Yeah, look, I played football. I was really sporty.
Yeah.
I played football when I was young.
Yeah, it's good.
Obviously short tennis. But yeah, badminton, obviously it was there. I wasn't forced upon by my dad. Obviously, I would play in the house, I would hold the racket, I would bounce the shuttle up and down and stuff like that. So it was something I wanted to do.
Was your dad,
something I enjoyed doing.
Do you know, I don't remember your dad being a badminton player. I don't think I ever saw him actually play badminton, funnily enough. But was he mad on badminton? I know he's a good coach, a really good coach, and a long committed coach. Well,
Yes.
was he a keen player growing up? When did he play and when did he stop?
He was a better tennis player. He played Martin, but he played at club nights, border club nights, but nothing serious.
Was he not?
Nothing. It was all about the coaching for him.
It's amazing, isn't it? I was talking to, who was I talking to? I was talking to Bob Euler. I don't know if you saw that video. He was saying, he was playing and he got to, in fact, even at 21, he was told, to be fair, you'll never be an amazing player, but I think you'll be a really good coach. And he
Yeah.
literally stopped playing and said, well, really stopped competing heavily, seriously, and just thought, and he literally went for it, forced himself, and committed himself being a coach and good,
He was
credit
a
to him.
good player. He could certainly play.
Yeah.
And obviously play, like people have talked about beating their dad for the first time.
Hi.
I couldn't remember beating my dad for the first time. The rivalry we had was probably more on the tennis court.
Was it?
And I could probably be more competitive with my dad on the tennis court because it was harder to beat my dad on the tennis court than it was the badminton court.
Oh, I see. Well, do you remember your first ever racket?
Yes, so it was actually, I always got downgrades from my sister. So my sister, but the first ever one my dad talked about, it was actually a Carlton head.
Yeah.
And he talked about he'd welded together a shaft. And it was basically, I think it was something like a Vicort shaft, but it was a Carlton 3.7. But as my sister improved, she got rackets, and obviously I got her rackets when she used them. I started being sponsored by Browning when I was 12-year-old, I think.
Well,
12-year-old, I started being sponsored by Browning, so obviously I got rackets and stuff like that from then at that point.
And what was the first racket do you remember buying or were given? What was your first ever best racket that you ever had, do you think? Do you remember? Or not really?
No, not really.
Yeah, Brian.
Not really. I smashed a few, Martin. Like smashing rackets,
Yeah. I know. Especially when you get given them, especially when they've been welded together. When they've been welded together, if you're paid for them, I think you tend to have a bit more respect for them. But when they hand me downs from your sister, you maybe think, oh, do you know what?
I've got a temper.
Not at all. What was the name of your first club? Was it just Duns?
Yeah, Duns Badminton Club.
Yeah. What was the hall like? The school hall, was it flat, low, high? What?
Oh, high, really high. Four courts, good lighting, brilliant courts.
Amazing.
It was good. We used to have an adult club in the Duns Volunteer Hall, and that was quite similar. It was 2 courts, low roof, quite close to the walls.
Yes.
Cold. But that was when I started playing. That's when I started playing in a senior club.
Was it?
But it started quite early.
I see. So was the school hall only really available for when you were learning at school, but when the club was there, you went to the volunteer hall, was it? It wasn't in the school?
No, to be honest, I think my dad was very lucky that he had access to keys. Yeah. He was very close to the PE department, and he had keys, and obviously organised the times that he was able to go in.
Did your dad do any coaching within the school?
No, he done summer school badminton. From what I recollect, Martin, my dad has probably never taken money for badminton coaching, apart from these summer schools. That was the only time he ever got paid for badminton.
Can I ask what did your dad do for work?
He worked in a sawmill. So if you ever look at him, he's actually missing a pinky.
I know somebody else like that works in a sawmill.
Yeah, and he left. They closed down, and he either had the chance of going to Carlisle. We were having to move to Carlisle, or he got a job with council, and then he worked with the council until retirement about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have a chat with your dad about his commitments and family.
He doesn't like you. He doesn't want to speak to you.
Fair enough. That's a fair comment. Do you remember how often you played?
Probably twice a week, mate. Probably Friday, and then probably club. I can't remember playing.
I'm talking about young, right? I'm still talking about young, like pre-10, pre-primary school, eh?
Yeah, I can't remember playing a lot. I honestly can't remember playing a lot. I think it was just Friday, and as I say, I played in with my dad on a night time. There might have been more coaching, but the main thing to me was standing out was Friday nights.
Yeah, good. Do you remember the first shuttles you used?
plastic. But I was going to bring up in terms of, I don't know if you're aware, the Prince shuttles that were once about.
No.
Prince shuttles used to have the feathers that you were able to change. So if a feather broke, you were able to put. So my dad used to go home on a Friday night and look at the shuttlecocks. These were feathers, and used to be able to replace the feathers so they were brand new again. I was plastics until I was about 14, and then just from then it was feathers after that. So.
It's a bugs game. If you ever get a chance, Google repairing badminton feather shuttles, and go on YouTube and look for it. And there's a guy like sitting, and he spends like 15 minutes repairing, and you can see it. He uses the snips and he cuts the string around the edge of the feathers, right? And he bought brand new shuttles, right? And he's he's cut the strings, right? He's taken all the brand new feathers out, right? Every one, and he's got them laid out flat. And then he's got a duffer shuttle. Snips the string. He drops the. In fact, no, he doesn't. I think he uses a nail to screw in so they can actually get the feather through. But you can just see it. It's gonna last like one rally, and it's taking like 15 minutes.
Wow, amazing!
It's amazing. But Google it. Repairing feather shuttles? It's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I would ask you to Google Prince replaceable shuttles. I'd ask you to just have a look at that because they were fantastic, mate.
That's quite interesting. Were you coached? We know the answer to that. Do you remember your first ever tournament and trophy?
Trophies. Well, end of season at Badminton Club, they used to have most improved and best up and coming and all that at Badminton Club. So there used to be trophies at the end of the year. Probably. Schools, so border school events probably were my first competition.
And so obviously your dad would probably be quite difficult because your dad would probably be the judge of who's best improved. So you probably never actually won anything.
I've had a lot of trophies, but yes, it was probably I remember a lady called Fiona Hodge. It was like a joint decision by the committee of the coaches.
That's not so bad.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was no favoritism, but I probably got a trophy every year because, I was good. I'm kidding.
So, what was the most successful event at the time? Singles, doubles, mixed?
Singles and doubles. I was handy at singles up until about 12 or 13. I actually played. There was a competition at Pennycook, a lot of competitions at Pennycook with a guy called Robbie Robertson. There was actually one competition I was in the final that I was 11 love down at the turn and I won 21-15. I won like the Christmas tournament in Meadowbank. There was one year I beat this boy, hammered him, absolutely walked him off the court. The next again, his name was Brian Sutherland. Next again year, he came back. He'd been coached by Craig Robertson, and he came back like unbelievably brilliant. And he ended up being our best player in our year from then, basically, because he went away and he improved. And wow, he was really good.
Yeah, amazing.
He could have went on and been something, but as we talk about in terms of getting to 17 and 18, he disappeared.
Yeah, it's the way it's. We've had that discussion never ending, isn't it? It's. Listen, I'm conscious of time. We're 22 minutes in. I've only got 35, maybe 40 at most. Who was your main competition growing up? Do you remember who the one particular person? Did you try and beat? What were you like with Claire? Did you play with her much?
Yeah, I played the league club.
Did you compete with her or anything?
No, not really. My main competition was Sandy Squires, who was in the same club. But he was a year above, so he played in competitions a year above when he went to Scottish competitions. And he was him and me played against each other. It was a bit of niggling, and we played doubles together. We were fine, but when we played singles against each other, it was quite intense. But it was good driving. Sandy was in the Scottish national squad, never made it team wise.
Yeah.
But he was decent, and it was great to have that sort of level. No, he lives. I've spoken to his mum a couple of times, but he's away up Dundee area. I'm not sure. He's a great golfer.
Yeah, maybe mention him now after this.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. What clubs? So moving on to the current clubs you play now, and how often do you play?
Well,
You're not
To
in a
be honest, on that,
competition.
mate, I've kind of obviously taken I've actually before COVID, I've taken a break from badminton.
Yeah.
Three reasons. I became addicted. I became addicted to the game, and I was wanting to play every night, and it wasn't fair in the family.
Yeah.
Um,
It's common, isn't it?
it
I
is.
think you're like me when you. Um, my wife gives me a hard time for doing this because I start doing something. I've done 11 interviews in just less than 7 days, and
Yeah,
she'll say, "Martin, you can't just do a little bit of something, can you? If you play golf, you want to play every day. If you want to play badminton,
yeah,
play every day. If I smoked, I smoked. I was up at 6 in the morning smoking. It was like a job, right? It was,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just that way. I think.
Now my boys are playing football every night, goalkeeping coaching, cones into athletics, and runs 3 times during the week.
Brilliant.
I wouldn't really have any time for badminton anymore,
Yeah,
Martin.
and I think,
Um,
but I don't think you'll ever take it away from yourself because I think you are an addictive personality like I am, and
yeah,
I know what you're like with golf. When you get to play golf, you want to go and play golf like
yeah, absolutely,
all
and
the
that's
time.
that's where I am at this moment. I'm addicted
Yeah,
to
you're
golf,
competitive,
but
so competitive with
but
yourself.
unfortunately, what I will share though,
Mm,
I got to the stage where I was getting very anxious, and
yeah,
I actually saw somebody about it, Martin,
did you?
because
Yeah,
when I was playing badminton, I had the fear of letting people down.
yeah,
And when I was starting to serve, I was starting to shake, and couldn't even serve over the net. And it was
yeah,
actually mentally, it
yeah.
was getting to me, and it was really horrible. And I was leaving Western and feeling that I've let people down and stuff like
It's
that. But it was
terrible.
just a sociable club night.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a shame.
and the person that I spoke to, they basically says you need to pull yourself away from badminton.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I'll be back when Meadowbank is open.
I think you need to. I mean, you obviously had. How many years did you have out of the game, Pete?
Um, on and off 10 years. Look, I came back every night. I moved. I worked in Portsmouth for 6 months, and I played down in the Portsmouth League when I was down there. That's when I was 24. When I came back from traveling from France and Barbados, I went back to Nomads, and that was for about a year because I went back and played with Eric Walker, who was at Nomads
Yeah.
again. But I just never got into the full routine, and the only thing that changed was I passed my driving test. And I passed my driving test really late, and obviously Aslan picked up on me standing at the badminton hall and standing in the corner.
That was me.
I literally just passed my driving
Had
test.
you?
I was desperate to get back into badminton, and me standing at that banking hall was seeing what standard it was.
Yeah, I
Was
get
I
it.
was I going to be good enough?
Yeah, I get it.
So
It's
that's where I
amazing.
was at, mate.
And then probably you should have just went once a week and just made it more. But you can't help yourself. You get more and more competitive. That's what happens, isn't it? You want to
Yeah,
be
look,
better, and you remember how good you were, and then you get frustrated because you're not as good as you were, and then you think, right, okay, I'll go to a better club, and it spirals, and before you know it, it's I did that wrong, and I did that wrong, and oh God, and
yeah.
I
To
know
be,
what it's
to
like.
be,
Anyway, back to the questions. We're 28 minutes in now, so
all right, mate.
what's your current favorite racket?
I play with. I'm going to waste a minute trying to remember, mate. Babolat. I play with Babolat, but I'm not sure.
Babolat. Just
Yeah,
you
it's
got one
whatever.
racket, or
Three.
how many?
Three
How often do you
rackets.
break strings?
Um, Not very often, mate.
Not really
Not
often.
very often.
Tension?
Don't hit the shuttle. Yeah, about 20, 23. I just took it at Gullen and said, just can you restring my racket, and they give me whatever, mate.
BG65.
That's to
That's
be
what it is,
honest.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Tension you prevail. That's good. How do you manage family life and badminton? As you said, you had a lot of commitments, and you definitely committed yourself to it before, but and it's
I'm
never really
really,
been a problem, has it? Oh,
I'm quite, I was quite selfish when I was playing badminton at Western,
yeah.
to be honest. And obviously, I was still playing at East Lothian, but playing matches, going and watching matches, instead of taking my kids to football, it wasn't right. Really selfish. I obviously turned that on the head now.
No,
I'm
that's
certainly doing
awesome.
the right thing now.
I think as long as you ask questions of yourself and fix yourself and know when you're doing wrong and be grown up about it, it's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So manage family life. What's your favourite event now? Um, Just pretend you were still at Western, right? So
Definitely doubles. Look,
doubles.
I struck up a great relationship with Gillian in mixed doubles and love playing with Gillian.
Nice.
Obviously, she understood me in terms of my
What's your
badminton.
surname?
Robertson.
Jim Robertson. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like playing mixed, but what I'd always say is that if there was a chance of a gents doubles, it would come before a mixed. But I love mixed the matches. Absolutely love the mixed matches with Gillian. Brilliant.
Who's your favourite? I know you play a lot of men's as well in tournaments with the EBA. I know you played with Oliver a lot. Anybody else? Or who do you like playing with the best men's doubles? Do you think?
Look, mate.
Without meaning to offend anyone, I just wonder, if you were going in a tournament, if you were going away to a badminton tournament with somebody and you said, "Do you know what? I'm going to go to Glasgow to a badminton tournament." Who would you go with?
I'd probably go with Robbie Patterson from the Borders. He was an exceptional player. He was really good. But to be honest, mate, I got my drive and probably because of Jason Cameron.
Oh, really?
I love playing with Jason Cameron. Absolutely, he's a great wee player. Tries so hard, and him and me were in competitions, and we were both getting the bug. We're both getting to finals, and we were playing matches. We were playing for East Lothian against Western, and we were holding ourselves and beating good players for Western, and that's what gave us the drive to then move forward. And I love playing with Jason. Absolutely love playing with Jason.
Because he was a lot younger and you felt kind of, what were you like playing with, I suppose, like your peers and that kind of thing? I mean, Jason's obviously quite a young guy. Do you think, and you're quite a confident guy, and I think you probably feel confident with somebody younger. Do you think is there anybody like in your age group that you like? Like, was Jason at Western all the time as well? He'll kick me for not knowing this. Did he go most times you were there? Was he in the club? So,
yeah, he joined the same time as me, I think.
Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
So he would be
I know that Neil went to Western before, and obviously when Jason and Rachel came along, and obviously we're a good standard, it was the right in terms of the club for them. So they came along at the same time as me.
Good. And do you? I take it. I think you've answered this question earlier. Do you think you're as competitive as you were always now, or do you think you've actually kind of decided now I'm just going to unwind it a little bit? Competitiveness.
I have fun and I shout on the court, and the shouting on the court is not me getting angry or anything. It's actually me just having fun within myself, but I'm competitive. I don't want to let my partners down. I don't want to let my team down. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about yourself or getting better. It's fear of letting somebody else down.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's funny, isn't it? So not selfish at all. It's very, it's good. Okay, and finally, the last question I've got. We're on the clock, 33 minutes. That's good.
Okay.
What is it about badminton you think, other than the obvious, it was nothing better to do? What is it about? Do you still love badminton as much as you did? And what is it about it, do you think, that people do love?
Great sport, Martin. Great friendly people. Look, you come across people that you maybe don't get on and maybe don't like you. But look, it's about the relationships that you have. I've met 5-6 guys at badminton that I went on golf trips and holidays with and stuff like that. That's what stands out for me, is in terms of the friendship. And that's the sort of thing that I'll get back to when I do get back to badminton.
Yeah, it's such a wide community, isn't it? It's wide. Yeah. I mean, you meet people from all over the country. And I was talking to Suzanne yesterday. I don't know if you heard that about the fact that it's cyclical. People come in and out of badminton, and people, when talking to these interviews, people remember people. Oh God, they were a really good player, and hopefully this will introduce people to be able to reach out, and maybe we can get some people's names out there that were great players, back in the day, and people are saying, did they still play? And people say, I don't know. And you think it's such a waste, we're so short of players going to clubs and that kind of thing, and good quality players. And you could see when somebody, I think it's like riding a bike in an element. If if somebody walks in, they haven't played for 20 years, I would know they could play. They've been coached and they can play.
Yeah. I think for me, coming for the Borders, Martin, we're obviously out a wee bit out. Probably like Aberdeen, we've got to come down to Edinburgh and Glasgow to play a competition. There's never been anybody really from the Borders that's moved that to the next step. Currently got Callum Smith, who's moved to Glasgow University, I think.
Is he?
And I, as a badminton player, I'm really proud and really hope that he can go to that next level.
Yes.
He's at that age now that there's girls, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I hope that he's the first badminton player to go on and represent Scotland at the senior level. I know his mum and dad, obviously, they're keen and they do a lot for him. I just hope that he is to be that first player from the Borders to take that giant leap, and it would be great because it's difficult. As I said, doing all that travelling and missing out on your life. You miss out on your life. You miss out on your life with your friends because you're a lot of badminton travel. Yes, I went to Switzerland, Denmark, Sweden to play badminton, which is a life experience. But you don't drink until you're 18. You don't go out clubbing until you're a wee bit older, and you miss out on so much.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult to want to do that and have your life experiences against successful badminton.
Do you think that when you were growing up, do you think there was a situation where you thought, I could go to, like, say, Loughborough University and do sports and just go, and my sister did it and went to Loughborough, and it was badminton coach. I think it was badminton coaching. I can't remember exactly. She's still claiming on this, but she went down to Loughborough, and year one she arrived there, and she used to play badminton all the time, right? Every night virtually, well, a lot of the time. And she went down to Loughborough and got up in the morning and got a badminton gear on, went into a hall and played badminton for 8 hours a day. And then at the end of the day, you think to yourself, she actually got back and thought,
not going to.
What do I do? It's hard. It's not easy.
Look, for me, when I got to 18, I was in there was a development squad, and I got into that development squad, and then they pulled it. And I think that was my get out. That was me away from badminton after that. And I was willing to train and go to Malaysia Commonwealth Games. That was my aim. Yeah. And that year you could see there was only, I think, 3 or 4 people went to the Commonwealth Games that year and I can't remember, 98. I think it was 98 in Malaysia. There was only 4 from Scotland. And I just don't think there was a lot of funding. And it was for me. I would have went anywhere for badminton at that stage, but unfortunately, there was nothing. Everyone stopped. Yeah. No, there was tournaments and there was stuff, but it kind of stopped, and it was kind of a pain that never went on. And at that point, I just thought, got to go college. I've got to earn a living and all that.
Can I ask at that point, when you were 18 before college, did you kind of take the half a bit? When you got to 18, did you think, I'm just kind of, you've got all this. I was saying to somebody earlier in the week that, you get all the attention for the years up to 18 and coaching and and then it gets to 18, and did you kind of take the half with it and think, well, my coaching's finished now?
No, you could have went on. There was certainly chances to go on, Martin. What happened is when you get after 18, you're an adult, so you start playing against Bruce Blucker to Kenny Middlemiss. You're in an adult group. Yeah. So the next players up for me, in terms of if I was under 18, under 19s a year above me, I'm close to them, but I'm still not good enough for them. You're actually playing people that are great Scottish standard. Yeah. That's really hard in terms of you've got to train, you've got to be committed. Look, at that age, under 18, I lost the under 18 national champions to a 14-year-old called Robert Blair. Right. And you knew at that age Robert Blair was going to be outstanding. I was supposed to go to a tournament in Portugal as #1 doubles. Robert Blair got taken in. Right. And that was a kick in the teeth. Yeah. But you could understand it because Robert Blair was an outstanding badminton player, and you always knew he was going to be absolute class.
So what age? So what kind of age group are you playing against? Like early 20s kind of thing?
Yeah, look, as soon as you turn 18, you're playing under 21s or you're playing senior senior competitions. I can remember going to competitions and getting beaten in doubles by Russell Hogg, Middlemiss, getting beat 15-3, 15-5. Difficult, mate. To travel from the borders, play one game, and then you're off again. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But
Good.
look, I think, as Suzanne mentioned last night, Scottish squads in them days were every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Now they're twice, thrice a week.
Yeah.
It's totally different, and you can see now why the Scottish players are a lot younger, and why the older players are retiring a wee bit earlier. I.e., in terms of Colin Campbell's son,
Martin.
he's probably still a fantastic badminton player, but it's time to earn a living, because you don't obviously earn a living really from badminton.
I know.
Obviously, Kissagimo is maybe a wee bit different, but there's not a lot of money out there. So
it's very. I think that's a real challenge, isn't it? Where you look in Malaysia where the money's where these guys are like football players. They play up until whatever, and they look at it and say, I can play badminton up till I'm 30, and then I'm retiring a multi. Where in badminton you just don't have that. You see these people, like, especially in. I don't know what the funding's like in Scottish badminton compared to English badminton and stuff like that, but there seems to be a lot of professional badminton players even in England compared to Scotland, and there's a lot of people. Well, in Scotland, you can still be a student effectively up until a certain age, can't you? And then, I don't know. I mean, there's just not. It starts with money, doesn't it?
Yeah, obviously, Robert Blair went down to England and represented, and that's probably was the next step for in my eyes, Scottish badminton player. That proved he maybe done the right thing.
Which is
yes, there's great. There's great coaching in Scotland. Absolutely fantastic coaching in Scotland, and there's great players in Scotland. Obviously, and you see how good they're developing and stuff like that. And I hope Scottish badminton players, all the young players, just keep going, because there's some great standard out there.
Great. Peter Hardie.
Man, Marty.
Thank you.
All right, pal. See you soon.
Take care. See you soon.
All right, bye.
Cheers.